Ever since the dawn of humankind, we've sought the origins of our life and its purpose. Some have chosen to look to science, religion, or philosophy for answers. Many have turned to the great masters such as Lao Tzu, the Buddha, and Jesus Christ for spiritual illumination. Still others have sought truth through their own direct experience. All of us are searching, knowingly or unknowingly, for enlightenment, truth, and harmony in our lives. This program, hosted by Dr. Gregory Penn, will help you aspire to a more fulfilling and rewarding life.
Every day we take a step, we understand. The closer that we get, we'll find in who we are. We choose between the left and right, the ups and downs, the darkness or the light. We'll find in who we are. There's so many roads.
Good morning and welcome to Aspire. We're going to work on something beautiful this morning. All of life is contained in this, a little seed. We're going to work on the concept that the Master gave to us, that a seed left unto itself that would not be willing to die does not bear fruit. We're going to talk about the need to let go, to take our teachings out of the bag and start putting them into the soil of our being. Then in the second half of Aspire, we're going to be working with questions and answers. Many of you have written in and asked some really neat questions, and I will be honored to answer them. So stay tuned for a half hour of insight as we explore the depth of a seed on Aspire. We allow ourselves to do nothing but create problems in our life. Always a problem that we have created. We create problems through our mind. We create problems through our life. Even the answers that we think that we have create more problems. We think that if we have more money, we're going to be a happy person, a more successful and secure person. So we make that money, and then we turn around and we have to worry about how to keep the money and who's going to take it away from us. We create problems with God. All of religion has created problems with God as we see it in the West, where we have looked at God as a vengeful being, some sort of angry, hostile God that looks down and judges us. I like to look at it from another point of view. If we look at God as God, what we think God to be in the form of a traditional God, a God that of wrath and hell and damnation, a God who is jealous, as they say, then if God created all of this in the world, the anger, the hostility, the war, the crime, the punishment, why should we worship a God like that? What's in it for you? What kind of God would allow there to be a World War I, a World War II, a Korea, a Vietnam, a Charles Manson, an Adolf Hitler? That's not God. And yet we try to understand this God. All of us have a place in us where, whether we are aware of it or not, we recognize God. Not a God that lives outside of us, the God that we have heard in traditional forms of myth and religion that created the world and makes things happen and doesn't make things happen and keeps a log and a journal on you. No, there is a God within us, and it is a very beautiful God. It lives in every single person. This God is not good nor bad. This God is unconditional. But how are we ever going to know this God? It's a very beautiful thought. It happens in emptiness. There's an old saying in Zen, emptiness in my hand. Emptiness in my hand. Most of us have a great difficulty with the concept of emptiness being in our hands. I want to share with you this in an effort that you might have a more, a deeper experience, a more insightful experience into yourself, into God. You know, if we are very loving, if we are very silent, if we are very caring, if we go deeply within ourselves, we will begin to see that when we are not within us, God becomes. When we are not, God is allowed. When we are not, God can happen. The way you and I are right now, the way we are with our opinions and our judgments and our attitudes and our intellect, God is impossible. God can only be a myth. God can only be a theory, a philosophy, an ideal, but not a reality. I hear many people who say to me they study about God. The word about means around, and that's what most of us do. We look around, but we never look within. When my ego and my vanity and my pride are dropped just for a moment, when I am just empty, all of a sudden the possibility for God rushes in. But we are too smart. We are too intellectual. We are too clever to have God come into us. We know too much to have God. We are bent on the idea that God is a theory, a concept, an ideal. So we miss God. This is why in the basic text of spirituality we hear the need for emptiness. I want to go to a teaching that Jesus offered to us in John. It is a fabulous teaching because it teaches us the ability to die. Every great spiritual master says to us, you will never find God the way you are. You will only find God when you cease to be. So they had many ways of saying this, about dying, of letting go. Listen to this teaching. It is an absolute perfect Zen koan, or a little parable to help us understand. This is found in John 12, 20 through 50. Verily, verily, I say unto you, Jesus said, except a grain of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it dies, it brings forth much fruit. He that loves his life shall lose it, and he that hateth his life in this world shall keep it unto life eternal. I love the way Jesus uses the analogy of a seed. If you put a seed in your hand and you look at it, it is a beautiful potential. The seed sits there, and within the seed is the tree, a giant tree maybe, a tree where animals and birds will find refuge, a tree where you will be shaded in the hot summer sun, a tree that will bear its fruit and offer its fruit. But it still remains a seed. As a seed, it cannot be a tree. As a seed, it cannot bear fruit. What must it do, as Jesus said? It must die. It can no longer be a seed any longer to fulfill itself. As you and I can no longer be rigid and harsh, we can no longer be so deeply opinionated and judgmental and above all, religious and all-knowing as we think we are. No, we have to let that seed die. As I've told you on earlier programs, Jesus was a very dangerous man, very dangerous. People who have attained to any kind of spirituality are dangerous people because they're the ones that teach us to die. All of Jesus' work, his words and his teachings were to die, to let go. What's that to thee? Follow thou me. Let go, let go, let go. We have to create something in us that is the most important thing in life, the need for humility. I'm going to give you now some how-tos, some teachings on how to attain this Christ nature, how to attain this feeling, this sense of God within us, this emptiness within us that allows God to come into our life. And again, please remember, as you and I are, as we are with all of our ambitions, with all of our knowledge, with all of our religion, with all of our ideas, God is impossible. God can only enter into a vase that is, so to speak, empty, a vase that is willing. The first thing that we need to do if we are to achieve this great consciousness of death, this great consciousness of life, to let go, is that we need truly to let go of everything. To understand the nature of all things, of how things rise and how they fall. And let me explain by a teaching that Buddha gave. It is the most deeply beautiful of all meditative teachings, and only those people who are serious about their spirituality, who've had enough of the knowledge game, of the intellectual game, who have found that there is nothing in that, can appreciate this. He said, spirituality, God will come to you when you want nothing with all of your heart. When you want nothing with all of your heart. When you realize that there is nothing in the world that can make you happy. that there is nothing in the world that can give you security, that there is no intellectual concepts or philosophy that can save you, that there is only one thing. There is too much of us in us to know God. When we are willing to disappear, to be like a dewdrop on the end of a tree, on the end of a beautiful pine tree, as it drops into the stream, then into the river and flows to the sea, to become one with the whole of life. To want nothing with all of our heart means that we are willing not to take on one more facade, not one more egotistical attachment, not one more basic ideal, not one more curse in our life, not one more should, not one more shouldn't, where we are willing to do what Jesus did in the Garden of Gethsemane. And he practiced just what Buddha said when he said, "Father, not my will, but thy will be done." Wanting nothing with all of your heart. Finally, an emptiness in our hands. You and I are the seed of great spiritual possibility. But to be the tree and to bear the fruit of our soul, of the goodness of our nature, we're going to have to die to this person that we created. Real spirituality is nothing more than a constant letting go. Letting go of old beliefs, old illusions, old ideals, old self. Where we're not the product of just a parent or a people or a society, where we are the product of an infinite God, an unconditional God, a God of great life, of fulfillment. You are not here to struggle through life, my dear friend. You are here to have life be fulfilled through you. And when we can empty ourselves out enough to allow life to bless us, we find the beauty of emptiness in our hands. Namaste. Welcome back to the second half of Aspire. We're going to be answering again some of the mail that many of you have written in, and I have chosen 4 or 5 here. I hope I can get to them all. I do want to answer one little bit of information that many of you ask, and that is, with a program as different as Aspire is, and with the thoughts and attitudes that are expressed here, do I get a lot of flack from traditional forms of religion, per se Christianity? Well, there are many forms of Christianity, I think. You know, there's the more orthodox kind and the more liberal and then the more metaphysical. We do get some comments from time to time from some of them. Sometimes they're unkind, but that's the nature of the game, and that's okay. And the beauty of TV is, if you don't like what you hear here, you can always turn the channel and go to something that you do like. Although if you do, you'll never hear the other side, and you'll never know what you might be missing. So it's just a matter of flexibility. It is interesting to me that religions in the West are so intolerant. It would be my idea that religion should teach understanding and tolerance and compassion, and yet some of the mail that we get and the comments that we get from our more traditional friends are anything but that. But I guess that is to be expected, isn't it, in life? First one comes from La Mesa. This is a woman who wrote and said, "I have been taught that I can know God through my mind, but much of your teachings say that this is not true. I know all about God. How can you say I don't?" We can never know God through our mind. As you say in your letter here, I can know about God, which means around God. If you learn the word about, look it up in the Webster's, it means around. It doesn't mean to know. We can know about many things, but never experience them. And that's the interesting thing. Religion makes us think that by thinking about things that we're having a direct experience. You will never know God until you have experienced God. You've all heard somebody say to you, well, you had to be there to appreciate it. Well, that's what it is with God. You've got to be there to appreciate it. And being there doesn't mean that you're there in your mind, in your intellect. Being there means that you and I make room for God. We do not make room for God. We have too many concepts about God. The mind creates barriers. It says, God is this and God is that. God is not this and God is not that. God is not this bad thing. God is only this good thing. And yet God is in the bad thing if God is in everything. So now the mind is really confused. You begin now to create a God in the image and in the likeness of our ego or our vanity or ourselves. For me, the most beautiful thing in the world that I've ever been able to do for me in this life is to go into my prayer time, my meditation time, not with the idea of trying to get anything out of it or to know more, but to go in, so to speak, clean with the idea, I do not know. I of myself can do nothing. It is amazing what will happen in those moments. They're brief moments, but they're wonderful moments in my life. They're brief moments where I begin to see things as they are, not the way I conceived them to be, or I made them up, or I projected them to be. You can be a very religious person. Most religious people know all about God. That's why their lives are the way they are. I notice that their lives are no more perfect than mine. I notice that the rain falls on them and the sun shines on them just like anyone else. They are not deeply different than anyone else. So it doesn't really matter, my dear friend. If you think you know God, think you know God. But to know God is to experience God, not to know God up here. God is experienced from within here. And only in that emptiness, when we are willing to go into meditation and to shut the door to all of our experiences, to let go of our mind and to take off our philosophies and go into the temple of our being, very clean and very quiet, naked, so to speak, do we really have the opportunity to experience God. I might just add one other thing. Don't think about God so much. Be God more. Next question comes again from San Diego. What is the difference between religion and the spirituality that you teach? This is an excellent question. Religion is man-made. Jesus did not create a religion. He did not create Catholicism. Jesus did not create Christianity. He didn't say to his disciples, now gentlemen, I want us all to sit around here and create a philosophy and a religion, and we're going to call it Christianity, and it's going to sweep the world, and we're going to build churches and save souls. He never said that. He never wanted that. He said, they will know you are my disciples if you will love ye one another as I have loved you. That is the only message. Buddha did not want Buddhism. He did not want people going out and spreading Buddhism. He simply wanted his followers to live in unconditional love. That's all any master wants. That is religion. Religion is filled with do's and don'ts. You know, I often hear people call us in this work a cult. This is one of the ones that lots of people like to call us. And they dial our phone number and say, you're a cult, and then they hang up on us. But we're really not a cult. Look up the word cult in Webster's dictionary, my dear friend. It means any religious body that has as its ceremony or its religion, a part of its religion, ceremony or rites or rituals, or bow down to any one person or worships any one person. Look it up. You're the cult. You, the ones who call us the ones who have no ceremony and tradition. That is for religion. And you know, it's not a bad thing either. Religion is not bad. Many people may say it is, but I don't. I think it serves its purpose in humankind. It can create a lot of thinking, a lot of suffering, a lot of futility, and that's where spirituality is born, out of futility and suffering. When a person finally admits this religion doesn't work, that's when you're ready for what I teach, something called spirituality. I can't define it because there is no definition to it. To define it would be to lose it. It is the spaces between our words. You will find God between the spaces in your words, between your breath, between the inhale and the exhale. That's where spirituality is. Spirituality is watching a river rush to the sea. Spirituality is looking at the moon without trying to create an illusion or to analyze it. The spirituality that I teach is not a religion. It's nothing that you can talk about. It's nothing that you do. It's something that you practice or you become. It's indefinable. It's the same thing that Jesus offered, that Buddha offered, that all great spiritual masters offer. You can't define them. The moment you define them, you lose them, because the mind is so finite and so incapable, so crippled, so inept. It cannot define the infinite. The moment you define God, you've lost God. God is the indefinable, unconditional. So I guess there is a vast difference between what I teach and what religion teaches. But please understand, mine is not better. Don't walk away thinking, well, he thinks it's better. Mine serves just as much a purpose in those people's lives who are ready for it as religion does. I don't look at one as lesser or better, but I do say this. If a religion condemns another person's point of view, another person's way, well, it causes great suffering and pain in the lives of those people who choose to go along with it. And if you will look at the teachings of Jesus, they have nothing to do with that kind of religion. Third question. In your class and even on your television program, Aspire, you stress the point of learning to let go. I find this so difficult. Can you help me? And this is from someone out in Spring Valley. Yes, let go is difficult, isn't it? We are a very possessive people. We are deeply possessive. We like to attach to family and to children and to friends and to people. We attach to money. We attach to ego. We attach to objects. Isn't it interesting how attached we can get? And all of those attachments that we hold to so dearly are in essence holding us back from seeing ourselves in God. Everything should be let go of. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying turn your back on your family. I'm not saying turn your back on your possessions, live without them. Quite the opposite. Put everything in perspective. If you let go of your possessive nature about people and objects and things, then you will begin to become in harmony with them. You will understand your family better. You will be able to love them better. You will be able to offer to them much more than you've ever offered before. Learning to let go of possessions and people and objects and things puts us in a very beautiful position for prosperity. So practice let go. Every day let go of something. Let go of the need to have somebody approve of you. Let go of the need for somebody to agree with you. Let go of the need to be right. Let go. You will begin to find that everybody's in their right place at the right time doing just what they should be doing the way they are. And ours is the blessing of being where we are. We will find more compassion and tolerance and love for life. It's a real adventure, my dear friend. Namaste. As I said to you earlier, seeds really are an amazing thing. The seed that I hold right here in my hand contains a beautiful tree in it and the fruit of the tree. But this seed in my hand doesn't mean one single thing. As long as it remains in my hand, it has to be planted in the ground, it has to be allowed to die, and to bring forth the life of the tree. And that's just exactly what these teachings are all about. It does us no good at all to take our metaphysical teachings, our spiritual teachings, so to speak, and put them in the form of philosophy and in our heads and just say, well, I know this and I believe that and my philosophical idea is this. That doesn't change anything. We have too many people in our work that are overread and underdone. We have to begin to practice the way. So this week I'd like to offer to you an opportunity. Practice the way of your heart. Be forgiving. Be compassionate. Be unconditional in your loving. You will notice dramatic changes occurring within your life. Thank you for allowing me to share with you this morning. Namaste.
We choose between the left and right, the ups and downs, the darkness or the light. We're finding who we are. There's so many